When someone betrays your trust in the most personal way possible, do you owe them anything? This next story is about secrets, trust, and well-deserved payback. She exposed my husband's secret, now she wants my help? I'm 27, and last year I decided to head back to school and finish my degree. My husband, Lucas, is trans and has been taking testosterone, which he gets delivered to a pharmacy. Since there's a pharmacy right on campus, we figured it'd be easiest for his meds to go there, and I just picked them up when I was already at school. Earlier this year, I stopped by to grab his prescription, nothing out of the ordinary. But on my way out, my classmate Camilla spotted me holding the medication bag and asked if I was okay. I told her the meds weren't for me, they were for Lucas. She asked if he was alright, and I said yeah, everything was fine. Then she kept pushing, asked what kind of medication it was. That felt way too nosy, so I told her it was private. But Camilla had already peeked at the label and saw it said testosterone. She put two and two together and flat out asked me why I was picking up testosterone for him. I froze. I didn't have a cover story ready, so I just told her the truth, that my husband is trans, he prefers to keep it quiet, and I asked her not to tell anyone. She said she understood and walked off. Not even a few hours later, I found out she had told multiple people. Suddenly I was getting asked disgusting, intrusive questions by classmates, things no one should ever have to answer. People started making comments about our private life. Every single one of them said Camilla was the one who spilled. By the time Lucas picked me up that day, he could tell something was off. People were staring. He knew instantly that everyone knew, and it crushed him. Fast forward 8 months. Camille ended up catching that virus that everyone's cautious about now, and she missed the entire first month of classes. Might even miss more. I make lecture recordings and usually offer them to anyone who asks. Camille aced out not once, but 6 times in 3 days, asking for the files. The first 5 times I gave her a vague, "I'll let you know." By the 6th time, I was done. I told her to leave me alone. That night she put me on blast in the class group chat. Does anyone have recordings? OP told me to buzz off when I asked for hers. A bunch of classmates jumped in. Turns out I'm the only one with the full set of recordings, and they all started calling me selfish for not helping her. Their take? She's in a rough spot, and helping her would be the right thing to do. They also claimed that her outing my husband didn't really hurt anyone, since only our classmates found out. Meanwhile, if I don't help her, she might fail her next round of assignments. I muted the chat. From my point of view, she violated our trust, humiliated Lucas, and turned our personal life into classroom gossip. I don't owe her anything, not after that. But everyone else seems to think I'm the bad one here. So, what do you think? Am I wrong for not helping her? Breaking someone's trust has consequences, and sometimes, those consequences look like a closed door when you need it most. When a mother tries to feed her baby, one friend has a serious issue with it, and the host isn't having any of it. I kicked my friend out for complaining about breastfeeding in my house. I had a few friends over the other day, one guy with his wife and 3 other women. One of the women, we'll call her Eleanor, had just had a baby about 2 months ago. This was actually the first time we'd seen her since she gave birth. She had been staying with family out of town, so this little get-together kind of turned into an unplanned mini baby shower. Everything was going fine until about an hour in, when Eleanor's baby got fussy. Naturally, she started to breastfeed him. I didn't think anything of it, she was just taking care of her child. But one of the other women there looked visibly uncomfortable. After a bit of awkward silence, she finally spoke up and said, "Don't you think you should cover up? Especially since there's a man here?" We all kind of just looked at her, stunned. My male friend shrugged and said, "It's fine. My wife breastfeeds too." His wife nodded in agreement. But that clearly didn't sit well with this woman. She turned to me and asked if I could get a blanket. I thought she meant for Eleanor, but when I handed it to her, she said, "No, it's for her to cover up with." That's when I kind of snapped. I opened up the blanket and draped it right over her head. Everyone just stared for a second before they burst out laughing. She yanked it off and started fuming, saying that wasn't what she meant and that Eleanor should be the one covering up. I told her straight up that if she had such a problem with breastfeeding, she could either look the other way or leave. She got really upset, saying I was choosing Eleanor over her and that she's known me longer. I told her it wasn't about that, it's my house, and I don't believe anyone should have to cover up just to make someone else comfortable, especially while feeding their baby. I also reminded her how hard it can be to try to wrangle a blanket over a squirming, hungry baby. I wasn't about to make Eleanor struggle with that just to cater to someone else's discomfort. Eventually, my friend stormed out, but the rest of us stayed and had a great time catching up. So, Reddit, was I wrong for standing up for Eleanor? Should I have handled it differently? Sometimes, standing up for what's right means standing up to your own friends. And in your own house? That's called setting the rules. Family support is supposed to be a team effort. But when one brother realizes he's been the only one paying for months, things get ugly fast. My brother stopped supporting our sensitive sibling. I'm one of 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. We're all between 31 and 40 years old, and all of us are married except for our middle brother. He's always struggled, both in school and socially. As he got older, those struggles turned into problems holding down a job and paying his own bills. Our mom always had a soft spot for him and would guilt-trip the rest of us into helping him out financially once we all moved out. We eventually agreed to pitch in equally, so the burden wouldn't fall entirely on our parents, who were hoping to retire soon. But our oldest brother? He absolutely hated this whole arrangement. He resented the middle brother for coasting through life without consequences and blamed our mother for always lowering the bar for him, calling him her sweet, sensitive boy. The rest of us never got away with the things middle brother did. Especially our older brother, he practically had to raise him growing up. About a year ago, my sister and I stopped contributing to middle brother's support because of our own financial struggles, but we never told our older brother. He and his wife make a lot more money than we do, so we figured it wouldn't make much of a difference to them financially. Plus, we didn't want middle brother to get absolutely nothing. Then, during a family Zoom call, our mom casually mentioned that her sweet, sensitive boy needed more help than he was getting from the family. That's when it all came out. Our older brother had been the only one paying for months, and he completely lost it. He called us opportunists, liars, and con artists among a lot of other things. Finally, he just said, "Screw you people," hung up the call, and hasn't spoken to any of us since. Not even to our parents. He's missed 2 payments now, and middle brother is absolutely freaking out. My parents and I even tried reaching out to my older brother's wife, hoping she could help out since middle brother is about to be kicked out of his apartment if we don't pay. My sister-in-law makes just as much money as my older brother, if not more, and could easily help out, but she flat out refused. She even called us crazy for suggesting she go against her husband's decision. After that, she stopped taking any of our calls. Now, we're running out of options. We're even thinking about driving 3 states over just to confront my older brother in person and try to get him to help out his family. My husband thinks it's a terrible idea and says we should just let middle brother sink or swim on his own at this point. And before you ask, yes, middle brother was tested a long time ago, extensively. They found he was completely neurologically typical, just overly sensitive. That's why mom always called him her sweet, sensitive boy. Would I be the bad guy if I actually drove all the way out there to confront him face to face? Supporting family is one thing. Being taken advantage of? That's something else entirely. Trust is hard to come by, especially when you're paranoid about being used. But what happens when your own suspicions become your downfall? The price of paranoia, when trust backfires. I'm going to tell you about the time my brother's paranoia about being used for money backfired big time. My brother, who's 28, has worked his way up to become pretty wealthy. About 6 months ago, he started dating this girl, and during that time, we actually got pretty close since we both share a love for hair, makeup, and shopping. To me, everything seemed perfectly fine between them. That was until I got a text from her last week. She said she'd love to hang out, but she thought it might be inappropriate now that she and my brother had broken up. I was shocked and asked her what happened. She told me she got tired of constantly feeling like she had to prove she wasn't after his money. Apparently, my brother was so paranoid that she was a gold digger that he set up little tests to try and catch her. He'd leave his bank statements out in the open just to see if she'd pick them up. He'd even go out to fancy restaurants, the kind he insisted on, and conveniently forget his wallet, expecting her to pay the bill. If she got annoyed, he'd take it as proof that she was only with him for his money. I couldn't believe it, so I called him up to get his side of the story. To my surprise, he owned up to it. He told me that he did leave out his bank statements on purpose, even hiding around the corner to spy on her reaction. When she picked them up, he convinced himself that she was just after his money. Then came the restaurant stunt. He admitted that he set it up just to watch her reaction when she had to cover a $500 bill. I asked him if he ever considered that her job as an elementary school teacher might make that kind of expense unreasonable, but he brushed it off. He said the final straw for him was when she asked why he hadn't bought her a single gift during their whole relationship. Mind you, she had bought him a gaming console and new rims for his car, but he took her asking as a hint that she wanted him to buy her something expensive in return. He confronted her, accusing her of being a gold digger. She just laughed, said she'd do them both a favor, dumped him right there, and blocked him on everything. He called me later, ranting about how she was just after his money, and when I laughed, he called me a bad. He told me I'd never understand what it's like being a rich man and getting used. I get that fear, but I told him straight up, if he doesn't want to be paranoid about his girlfriend's intentions, maybe he should date someone with the same kind of money, or just leave regular people alone if he's not going to be genuine. I have to say, my brother's issue isn't about money, it's about being a terrible boyfriend. I mean, who leaves out their bank statements as a trap and then gets mad when someone picks it up? Who expects someone to pay a $500 dinner bill to prove they aren't after your cash? And not buying her a single gift after she spent hundreds on him? Honestly, if anyone seemed like a gold digger, it was him. In my opinion, he deserved what happened. Maybe next time, he'll actually treat his partner with some respect instead of running little experiments. And if he can't trust anyone, maybe he's just not ready to be in a real relationship. If you're always setting traps, don't be surprised when you end up caught in one. Sometimes, the real problem isn't trust, it's you. Pillow fights are one thing, but when it turns into a full-blown pillow war, one guy decides it's time to take it up a notch. I got my revenge with a pillow fort. Did I go too far? So, here's the situation. My wife and I got these gorgeous decorative pillows when we first got our bed. They're lovely, I won't lie. We both love them, during the day, that is. But at night? That's a different story. Every evening, my wife tosses all the pillows onto my side of the bed like she's a soldier in a battlefield. She'll literally throw every single one on my side and then just fall asleep like nothing happened. It's become a nightly routine, and now we're in what I call a pillow war. We've gotten creative over time, trying to outdo each other with new, weird ways to pile the pillows only on the other person's side. Today, I thought of something brilliant. I let her get to bed first, so she had all the pillows on my side. Once she fell asleep, I went to work. I quietly built a massive pillow fort around her using pillows from every room in the house. It was wobbly at best, and as soon as she moved, it all collapsed. The funniest part? She got hit by about 5 pillows all at once. She woke up in a panic, thinking someone was attacking her. It was hilarious. Now, she's mad at me. But am I really the bad one here, or is it just all part of the pillow war? I think I might be in the clear here. Sometimes, the best way to win a battle is with a good sense of humor and a whole lot of pillows. When a family emergency forces one student to bring a baby to class, a professor takes things way too far and makes it personal. Professor shames me for bringing a baby to class, then doubles down in an email. My university is completely online, which makes things pretty flexible for me. I'm 20 years old, and last week, I found myself in the middle of a family emergency. My aunt and uncle had to leave their house late at night, and since I live close by, they called me up in a panic. They needed someone to look after their baby, who's not even a year old, until they got back. I didn't hesitate, I packed up my stuff and headed over to help out. I've taken care of babies before, so I wasn't too worried. But the next morning rolled around, and my aunt and uncle still hadn't made it back. My morning class was about to start, and there I was, setting up my laptop with my baby cousin fast asleep in my lap. Honestly, I was relieved. Anyone who's been around a baby knows that a sleeping baby is a gift from the heavens. Now, here's where things got a little complicated. I had a presentation scheduled for that class, and my camera was off while I got ready. Right as I was preparing to present, the professor called me out. "Opie, please turn on your camera." I paused for a second and then replied, I have a sleeping baby right now, is that okay with you? I tried to be as polite as possible, even explaining that it was a family emergency and I could email her the details if she needed proof. She seemed fine with it. "It's fine," she said, "but please turn on your camera." So I did. My little cousin was still snoozing away in my arms as I gave my entire presentation. To my surprise, everything went smoothly. I answered all the questions, and my cousin didn't make a peep. I was honestly proud of how it all turned out. That feeling didn't last long. Last night, I got my grade back along with an email from the professor. She said she marked me down because she felt like the baby was there as a pity prop, like I was trying to milk sympathy out of my classmates and her. According to her, if I hadn't had the baby, my grade would have been higher. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She actually put that in writing. I didn't bring my cousin to class for sympathy, I did it because there was a literal emergency. Now I'm sitting here wondering if I should forward that email to the department head because, honestly, it feels like she crossed a line. Am I wrong for bringing my baby cousin to class? Or is she the one out of line for assuming the worst and penalizing me for something out of my control? Either way, I'm seriously considering making sure someone higher up sees that email. Emergencies don't wait for convenience. And if your professor can't understand that? Maybe it's time someone higher up hears about it. A simple favor turns into a nightmare when a family member abuses your trust. But when the truth finally comes out, it's time to draw the line. I refused to babysit after my brother lied. Now the family is furious. My brother and his wife are the only family I have in the city, and when my sister-in-law got pregnant, I made it clear that I'd only babysit their kid if there was a real emergency, like a medical crisis or something serious. I work 60 to 100 hours a week, so my time is precious. If anyone needs a break, it's probably me. Last year, they asked me to watch their son on the same day I had an important work retreat by the lake. It wasn't just a casual get-together, it was a company event that everyone was expected to attend. They wanted to go on a date, and I said no. But they kept pushing, saying they hadn't gone out in so long. I stuck to my guns. The night before the event, they called me in a panic, saying their friend Jackson had been in a car accident and they needed to rush out to see him. They sounded frantic, so I agreed to watch my nephew on the condition that they'd be back by 7 a.m. so I could make it to my work event. They didn't show up until 2 days later. I had to cancel on my boss, and it made me look terrible. The whole time, I couldn't get a hold of them. My texts and calls went unanswered. When they finally returned, they gave me some excuse about Jackson being in critical condition and how they were helping his girlfriend. I believed them at first. I'd met Jackson and his girlfriend at a party before and they seemed nice enough. But I made it clear that this couldn't happen again. For the next couple of months, my brother and sister-in-law kept using the same excuse to make me babysit, claiming they had to go help Jackson recover. I didn't question it until my company had a joint event with Mike's girlfriend's company. I ran into her and casually asked how Jackson was holding up. She looked at me like I'd grown 2 heads. Jackson had never been in an accident. In fact, he was perfectly fine. I confronted my brother and his wife, and at first, they denied everything. But after some pressing, they admitted they'd made up the whole story just so they could go on dates. They tried to justify it, saying that I wouldn't help them otherwise, and parenting was just so hard. It was a little white lie, according to them. After that, I told them I'd never babysit again. Yesterday, they called me, begging for help because there was an actual emergency in my sister-in-law's family. They even sent me proof of the hospitalization. But I still said no. If they could lie so easily before, how could I trust them now? Now they're calling me a bad aunt, saying I'm heartless and holding on to a grudge. But honestly, I'm done being manipulated. If they want a babysitter, they can pay for one like everyone else. Trust is earned, not given. And once it's gone, it's not always so easy to get back. Quitting your job is supposed to be a choice, but when your boss thinks he can stop you, sometimes you have to make your point loud and clear. Boss refused to let me quit, so I walked out instantly. I'd been working at my company for a couple of years, and over time my boss had developed this annoying habit of calling every woman on the team hun, sweetie, or sugar. It got under my skin, but I stuck it out because I needed the experience. Then a competitor reached out and offered me a higher salary and better benefits, so I decided it was time to move on. I handed in my 2-week notice and felt pretty good about it until he looked me dead in the eye, leaned back in his chair, and said, "Well, sugar, I don't think you're going anywhere." I was stunned. He actually laughed and tried to argue that he couldn't let me leave, like resignations were optional. That was the last straw. I told him flat out that my notice was effective immediately, that I'd accepted the other offer, and that there was nothing left to discuss. Then I called my new employer right on the spot. They were surprised but thrilled and arranged to start the very next day. I packed up my desk, said a quick goodbye to a few coworkers who cheered me on, and walked out the door. One colleague even told me she'd never seen anyone make an exit that legendary, and she laughed about it for days. My new boss later told me I did exactly the right thing, that nobody has the right to refuse a resignation. But now I'm wondering, am I the bad guy for storming out after he tried to block my quitting? When someone tries to hold you back, sometimes the best answer is the simplest one: just walk away. Sibling rivalry is one thing, but when one dream comes true and another falls apart, jealousy turns family into strangers. I'm a 17-year-old guy, and my older brother Logan, he's 18, and I have both been obsessed with getting into University since we were kids. Logan was the bigger fan of the two of us. He owned more H-branded hoodies and caps than I could count, and he always talked like his future depended on attending that school. We usually got along well. We'd swap study hacks, quiz each other before tests, and even joke about our joint acceptance celebration. Then decision day came, and we opened our letters side by side. To my shock, I got in, and Logan didn't. Logan completely panicked. He messaged me that he'd been spiraling and honestly scared me a bit with how upset he sounded. My parents grounded him for letting it get that bad, which only drove a bigger wedge between us. He started accusing me of only getting in because I'm the girl in the family, like H was filling a quota or something. I felt awful for him. I'd be heartbroken too if the roles were reversed, and I figured he'd bounce back over the summer once he had time to regroup. But it's been weeks, and nothing's changed. It's official, I'm off to H University and he's headed to a solid state school, and classes start in less than a month. Since our bedrooms are too cramped for serious study, we both end up in the small shared study nook, each of us plugged into our own headphones to block out noise. The weird part is, it's not the noise he's worried about, it's seeing me decked out in my H gear. Every time I put on my new H sweatshirt, he gives me this look like I'm rubbing salt in the wound. I just want to soak in the excitement of my acceptance and get ready for campus life, but instead I feel like I have to tiptoe around him. I'm honestly at my wit's end. How do I enjoy this milestone without my brother turning it into another reminder of his rejection? Dreams are meant to be celebrated. But when someone else's pain tries to steal your joy, that's a battle you have to face head on. That's it for today's stories. Sometimes the biggest drama doesn't come from strangers, but from the people closest to you. If any of these hit home, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.